Breaking news: Israel may attack Qatar again after the president's shocking warning. This explosive statement has sent shockwaves across the Middle East and beyond. Is this just political pressure, or are we on the verge of another military escalation? Stay tuned as we break it all down for you. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is not just another news story, it's an unfolding crisis that could shake the Middle East once again. The Israeli president has dropped an explosive warning suggesting that Israel may attack Qatar again. This statement has created waves of tension not only between Israel and Qatar, but also across the entire region. People are asking, is this rhetoric, or is Israel genuinely preparing for another strike? To understand the depth of this crisis, we need to look at the history of Israel-Qatar relations, their long-standing rivalries, and the geopolitical chessboard that connects them. Israel's past actions and Qatar's political positions often clash, and whenever warnings like these are issued, it raises fears of escalation. Citizens in both countries, as well as neighboring states, are already on high alert. In today's video, we will dive deep into what the president actually said, why this warning matters, how the international community is reacting, and what possible scenarios could unfold if Israel takes this path again. So let's break this down section by section. To really grasp what's happening today, we must first rewind and look at the background of Israel-Qatar relations. Unlike Israel's relationship with some Gulf countries, which have softened over time, Qatar has remained one of Israel's harshest critics. Qatar openly supports Palestinian causes, funds humanitarian projects in Gaza, and maintains strong ties with Hamas leadership. This has always been a sticking point for Israel. For Israel, Qatar's financial and political support to groups it considers hostile is a red line. In the past, tensions between these two nations have erupted into diplomatic clashes and indirect conflicts. Israel often accuses Qatar of fueling instability, while Qatar positions itself as a defender of oppressed voices in the region. This backdrop is essential because when Israel's president issues a warning about a possible strike, it's not coming out of nowhere. It's rooted in decades of mistrust and ideological differences. Analysts argue that every time the Middle East inches toward a fragile balance, something reignites hostilities. The latest warning has once again brought back memories of previous confrontations, making people wonder if another cycle of conflict is on the horizon. Now let's focus on the president's actual words. During a press briefing, the Israeli president reportedly made it clear that Qatar should reconsider its actions or face consequences. He suggested that if Qatar continues what Israel sees as interference, a military response may be inevitable. This statement was not just a casual comment, it was a deliberate warning that has been interpreted as preparation for possible military action. The language used was strong, direct, and intentional. International media outlets immediately picked it up, framing it as Israel hinting at another strike on Qatar. This is why the world is paying so much attention. Leaders don't issue warnings of this scale without a calculated motive. The president's words may serve two purposes. First, to pressure Qatar into changing its policies, and second, to send a message to other nations in the region. But the big question remains, is this just political theater or a genuine threat of war? Observers are divided. Some believe it's a bluff, while others see it as a warning shot before actual action. The uncertainty itself is enough to cause panic and speculation. Whenever Israel issues such warnings, it's crucial to analyze the timing. Why now? Why this particular moment? Currently, the Middle East is going through a volatile phase. Ongoing conflicts in Gaza, fragile normalization agreements between Israel and Arab states, and the presence of global superpowers in the region all create a complex environment. Qatar has recently stepped up its role in mediating regional issues, from hosting negotiations to supporting humanitarian causes. Israel views some of these moves as hostile, especially if they involve Palestinian groups. By issuing a warning at this time, Israel may be trying to reassert dominance, demonstrate military strength, and deter Qatar from further involvement. Timing also matters because of domestic politics. Israeli leaders sometimes use strong foreign policy statements to rally support at home during difficult times. Similarly, Qatar is unlikely to back down, as doing so would harm its image as a bold and independent nation. This timing suggests that the warning is both strategic and symbolic. Strategic because it pressures Qatar, and symbolic because it reassures Israel's allies and sends a signal to its rivals. Reactions from Qatar have been sharp and defiant. Officials in Doha have condemned the statement, calling it reckless and provocative. Qatar's media outlets are portraying Israel's threat as an attack not only on their nation, but also on the wider principle of sovereignty. Qatar has historically used its vast resources, both financial and diplomatic, to push back against pressures from bigger players. In this case, they may respond by rallying international support, highlighting Israel's aggressive posture, and strengthening their alliances with other countries in the Gulf and beyond. Domestically, this warning could fuel a sense of unity among Qatari citizens who will see themselves under threat and rally around their leadership. Qatar is unlikely to bow to Israeli pressure, given its reputation for standing firm in regional disputes. Instead, this confrontation could escalate into a larger diplomatic crisis, with Qatar seeking support from powerful allies like Turkey, Iran, or even Western nations who have ties with both sides. The response from Doha makes it clear Qatar is not intimidated, and any move from Israel will be met with political and possibly strategic countermeasures. The international community is also closely watching this development. The United States, the European Union, and the United Nations have all expressed concern. The fear is simple. If Israel and Qatar clash directly, the entire Middle East could be destabilized. Both nations have significant influence. Qatar hosts major U.S. military bases, making it a critical ally for Washington. At the same time, Israel is one of America's closest partners in the region. A direct conflict between these two would put the U.S. in an extremely difficult position. European nations, too, are worried about energy supplies, as Qatar is one of the world's largest exporters of natural gas. Any instability there could affect global markets. The UN, meanwhile, has urged restraint, warning that even threats of war can escalate tensions dangerously. Other regional players like Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran are also monitoring the situation, each calculating how this confrontation could impact their own strategic interests. This international angle adds another layer of complexity to the crisis, making it clear that this is not just about Israel and Qatar, it's about the balance of power in the entire Middle East. Military experts have started analyzing what a potential Israeli attack on Qatar would even look like. Israel is known for its advanced air force and precision strike capabilities. If they decide to act, they could target Qatar's critical infrastructure, including military bases or political centers. However, such a move would be extremely risky. Qatar's defense systems, though not as advanced as Israel's, are backed by partnerships with powerful allies. The presence of U.S. bases in Qatar complicates the situation further. An Israeli strike could inadvertently affect American assets, dragging Washington deeper into the conflict. Military strategists also point out that attacking Qatar is not the same as striking smaller militias in Gaza or Lebanon. Qatar is a sovereign, wealthy, and influential nation. Any attack would immediately escalate into a regional crisis, with possible retaliation not just from Qatar, but also from its allies. Therefore, while the warning sounds aggressive, The feasibility and consequences of such an action make it a high-risk gamble for Israel. This is why many analysts believe it may remain a war of words rather than actual missiles. Let's consider possible scenarios moving forward. In one scenario, the warning achieves its purpose. Qatar tones down its support for groups Israel opposes and tensions cool down. This would allow Israel to claim victory without firing a shot. In another scenario, Qatar refuses to change its position and Israel escalates further, either through covert operations, cyber attacks, or even limited strikes. A third, more dangerous scenario is a full-blown conflict, which could drag in multiple regional and global players, sparking chaos across the Middle East. Each scenario has serious consequences, not just for Israel and Qatar, but for the entire world. Energy markets, global security, and diplomatic relations would all be shaken. The unpredictability of the situation is what makes it so alarming. Leaders on both sides must weigh their options carefully. A miscalculation or a single provocative move could turn threats into reality. The stakes are simply too high for this to be treated as just another war of words. What happens next will depend on political calculations, back-channel negotiations, and the willingness of both sides to avoid disaster. Another layer to this crisis is media and public opinion. Israel's warning has become the headline across global news outlets. In Israel, the statement is seen by some as necessary toughness, while critics argue it risks unnecessary escalation. In Qatar, the media frames it as an act of aggression that threatens peace in the region. Social media is amplifying these narratives, with hashtags trending worldwide, fueling both anger and fear. Public opinion matters because it pressures leaders to act in certain ways. If citizens in Israel demand stronger action, the government may escalate further. If Qataris rally behind their government, it reduces the chance of compromise. International audiences are also paying attention, with activists, politicians, and influencers weighing in. This war of narratives adds fuel to the fire, making it harder for both sides to step back without losing face. In the modern era, perception is as powerful as reality. The battle of words, images, and viral posts may be shaping the crisis as much as missiles or diplomatic cables. This media-driven dimension makes the situation even more volatile. In conclusion, the Israeli president's explosive warning about possibly attacking Qatar again is more than just a political statement. It's a potential trigger for regional instability. We've seen how history, geopolitics, military calculations, international reactions, and media narratives all tie into this unfolding drama. Whether this remains a war of words or escalates into something more dangerous will depend on the choices made in the coming days. Both nations have much to lose, and the world cannot afford another major conflict in the Middle East. The hope is that diplomacy will prevail before threats turn into reality, but as of now, uncertainty hangs over the region like a storm cloud. If Israel follows through, the consequences will be catastrophic. If Qatar stands firm, tensions may continue to escalate. And if cooler heads prevail, perhaps this crisis can be diffused. Whatever the outcome, we will continue to monitor the situation and bring you the latest updates.